Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about small gas engines and procedures that go along with them, where everything is kept, organization, and just a few tips for small gas engines and using tools and equipment along with it. So first, where are they located? In my middle storage room, I have a total of 4 different lockers that have engines inside of them, and usually in each locker there's at least 4 engines. So if we open up the locker, look inside, there should be shelves and 4 engines, and they're all labeled accordingly. And each engine has, of course, a shelf, a blue toolbox, and it should also have like a manila or like a cream-colored container. So these engines themselves come in many different shapes and sizes. Some of them are identical and look the same, like this one here and this one here. One is just upside down, but others are a little bit different. So one thing I definitely want to stress to you guys is not all of the engines that I have are the same, but the same principles do basically apply from one to another with how they work, how you take them apart. It's just that they're different in their design altogether. And these engines themselves are around, I'd say, 15 to 20 pounds, depending on which one we have. Just be very careful when you're trying to transport and carry everything to your workstation. So if you need help, you can either have someone else that's stronger in the class help you out, carrying it to and from your locker to your workstation, or you can have me help you out as well. So I have tables around my room labeled from 1 to 7. You and your partner are going to be working with one specific engine, so 2 people per engine, and you're going to be at a specified location at a certain table number that I give you. First, let's take a look at your toolbox. So each group is going to have a toolbox assigned just to them. So their engine and their storage location number is going to match the number on the toolbox, which is right here. First thing you do with your toolbox is you want to open it up. There's 2 little snaps here. Open it up so you can see the inside contents. There's a little shelf on the top, so we can take that and pull it out. We're going to set that off to the side right here. And inside the toolbox, there's going to be a few different things. One, there's going to be an inventory card, which shows you basically what's supposed to be inside. Everything's organized and it tells you exactly what you should have. It's always a good idea to do daily inventory checks to make sure that you're not losing or missing things. And there's an inventory checklist on the back for the top tray. I'm sorry, the front for the top tray. And there's one on the back for the bottom tray. And everything is pictured, so this makes it as easy as possible where everything belongs. So keep that with your toolbox, and it's going to have the toolbox number at the very top. Inside the bottom tray, you're going to have a few different things. Let's take a look. You're going to have on the left here, we have 2 screwdrivers. We have a straight blade and a Phillips. We have a pair of needle nose pliers and a multimeter. Now if we take a look at the top tray, there's a few different things here. We have a little cleaning brush right here. This is called a ratchet. These little silver things right all around here that are scattered, those are called sockets. This long thing right here that's attached to a socket, that's called a socket extension. We have feeler gauges. And then on the very top right here, that's called a spark plug gapping tool. So make sure you do an inventory, make sure everything is accounted for. Now when you're completely done at the end of the period, after you do your inventory, you can do this maybe not every day, but every 2 days. Put everything back inside, make sure not to lose any of this stuff. Close the lid, and this is important, snap it shut. If you lift it up and it's not snapped shut, you're going to spill everything everywhere all over the place. And it's not fun to try and go chasing after all kinds of sockets, wrenches, and stuff like that. Next thing I want to talk about is this Manila container. So this container is basically just an area for you to put small parts that you take off of your project because it just keeps things a lot more organized and in one place. When you're taking things off of your project piece, your engine, you got to make sure you keep account of them and where they're located. We cannot lose anything, or else we're going to have some serious issues later when we try to put it together. So right in front of us, we have our small gas engine. Now this is an engine off of like a push mower, a lawn mower, and there's a couple things I want to go over just as a quick review. Up at the top, we have this big flywheel cover, and there's a pull start. Besides that, this part over here, let me turn around so you can see it. This is part of your intake. This is where the air cleaner is, so if we pop this off, there should be a foam filter in underneath. Right here, this is our fuel tank. And if I take you in just a little bit closer, usually in between the fuel tank and the air filter, that thing in the middle, about right here, that's the carburetor, which is meant for mixing fuel and air before it goes into the combustion chamber. If we zoom out, take a look at the other side, This right here is our spark plug wire that comes down to the spark plug, which is right here. We have our cylinder head. Turn it around, we have the exhaust. This part right here is called your tappet cover for your valves. We have the cylinder, which is over here where the piston is located. And then we have our engine cases right here. Now on most of your engines, they're called horizontal shaft, which basically means that the crankshaft, the part that attaches to the blades, is going to be on the very bottom. So this part right here is your crankshaft that comes out and attaches to the motor blades. Some of them will be a horizontal, or this is a vertical shaft. Some of them will be horizontal, which means that the shaft is going to come out on the side of the engine, okay? Some of your engines might be mounted to like some kind of like little stand that looks just like this. Sometimes you're going to have mounting bolts that attach the engine to the stand. This is just to hold it back in the storage closet to keep it upright so it's stored properly. You can always unbolt this. It doesn't always have to be in the stand, so just keep that in mind. The very first thing you want to do with your engine is remove any covers. So anything that's on the outside comes off first. And don't just start ripping and tearing without any meaning and having any idea what you're doing. You can't necessarily just go for it and expect everything to come apart. So first, we're going to want to take off this big shroud, like the flywheel cover and the pull starter. And then we're going to be getting into, probably over here on the left side, we'll be dealing with taking apart the air cleaner. We're going to take the carburetor off, this brace on the front, as well as the fuel tank. And we're just going to start picking away one by one, getting into the engine itself. So you'll have to find the locations of the screws that are holding the case or the shroud on. So there's one here for this one. If we rotate it, there's one on the front, which is right here. And there should be another one on the opposite side. So you just have to look around. Don't just go into it and start pulling and prying off. If something isn't moving, don't force it. Always look for a better option, or maybe something might be hiding, holding it on. Now, like I said before, guys, when you're taking everything apart, please keep track of where everything is located. And not all engines are going to look just like the one I have here. They might be slightly different. But the stuff I'm going to go over is basically, it covers everything as like a generalization. So the first thing we're going to do is pull off this cover. So a couple things I'm going to cover. First, we're going to be opening up our toolbox so we can look inside. And we're going to need the correct size, well, we're going to need a ratchet, and we're also going to need the correct size socket. Now, you're not always going to know what size socket you need right off the bat. Some of these are metric, some of them are standard. It's going to be like a trial and error method. So the socket, or I'm sorry, the bolt that we want to take off is this little guy right here. So what I usually do, if I'm not sure like which size it is, I go in and it's just a trial and error method. Take one of these, stick it on. If it's a somewhat like tight and snug fit, that means that's the one we're going to use. This one, I just got lucky on the first shot. This is going to be the one that works, and this is, if you look at the side of it, this is an 11mm socket. You can see right there. But if something's too loose, like this one, it's going to spin, or you can feel it like wobble back and forth. We can't use that. If it's too small, it's not even going to fit over top of this bolt. We can't use it. This tool right here is called a ratchet. So basically what a ratchet is, it's a device for tightening and loosening nuts or bolts. And you can hear like it has a handle over on this side. There's a button on the back, which is for releasing the sockets. And there's like a little directional like control knob on the back you can flip back and forth. So if you want to take a socket and place it on, you find the end that has like a square on the back right here. And you just push it right on top, just like this, until it pops right on. Sometimes you might even have to push in this button with your finger and it'll pop on, and it should stay in place just like that. Now if you want to tighten something, most likely you need to take this knob, flip it over to the left, and if you turn your ratchet to the right, you'll hear it click. But if you start like turning it to the right, it's going to tighten up. This means you're tightening everything. If you want to loosen something, it's the exact opposite. Take this knob, flip it over to the right, and then it's going to do the exact opposite. It clicks when we go to the left, and it's going to loosen when we go to the right and tighten up just like this. And if you want to take your socket out, easy enough, press the button at the top and the socket should just come right off just like that. Another thing that I sometimes like to use would be this little guy here, which is called a ratchet extension. So basically it takes this little square part here and it extends it so you can reach and, well, get into hard to reach places. So the way these guys work, you take your ratchet and the extension, you place the square end right on the square end of your ratchet, press the knob, and click it on just like that. So it extends everything out a little bit further. That way, if there's a nut or a bolt that's far in, that's hard to reach with just the ratchet and socket itself, this is going to extend everything. It makes it a little bit easier. And then, of course, square end goes on square end, line everything up, and this should pop right on just like that. When you're cleaning up your hands, I have this special hand cleaner that has pumice or like a gritty material in it that will clean your hands up just fine. Just make sure you use one pump, no more than that. Get some water going. Scrub your hands together for a few minutes or a few seconds. Wash your hands off, and it should take off all the grease and oil and get rid of it, and then you can dry your hands off and you're completely done. You would like to use a pair of gloves to keep your hands clean because you will get oily through this process. Back in the finish room, I have gloves that you can use. So you'll use one pair, and once you're done with them, you just throw them out.